Do you ever have people just say, slow down? And... Elisa, you know what I'm saying?
It's not like she talks so fast. She thinks so deeply and then shares it so honestly that I have to catch up.
Yeah, it's not even just Bill. It's not just the talking fast.
No, it's every now and then I want to just be quiet and think about it for a little bit, but the next idea is already coming. So I'm a processor. No, not
I think
at all.
It's the way we think and the way we all, every one of us and our friends who now are with us at the table, we're all going through something very concrete in our lives. I mean, something you can feel and touch and smell. And all of a sudden when we're talking about these wonderful Christ-centered, mystical things that are you're calling us to.
And I think in the Broken Way, what I'm trying to do, all of those, the deep theology is embraced in story, enveloped in story, because I'm constantly saying, okay, this is my life.
You are a storyteller. There's no question about it.
This is my life. Now, how does that intersect with what I understand of Scripture, what I understand of Jesus? So it's constantly story, Scripture, story, Scripture, story, Scripture.
Yeah.
I'm living it all the time, right? So here's my life, here's
we
Scripture.
Kind of drop in.
We're dropping into the we're dropping into the theology.
Yeah.
Tell us a story.
Tell us a story.
Yeah.
Okay, the Broken Way talks about it.
When you say the Broken Way, you're talking about the book.
The
your
book,
most
the
recent
Broken Way.
book.
Yep. I tell a story in the Broken Way about leaving the doctor's office with Shalom. She had a fever. When I got to the doctor's office.
And Shalom is
my sixth child. As I took Shalom into the doctor's office, I knew the moment I stepped out of the van and closed the door, oh dear, I've locked the keys in the van. And I have a child with a temperature of 104. And I'm thinking, okay, when I come out of the doctor's office, I need the keys to be able to get in the van and go home immediately with the child. And I also, brilliantly, don't have a phone with me.
Oh, gosh.
Because I'm a mess. So when I went into the doctor's office, I asked the receptionist, can I call home right now and ask one of my kids, let the older boys know, Mama has locked the keys into the van. Could you please have one of the older boys bring in the keys?
Shalom is not locked in the van.
No, Shalom is with me, draped on me, desperate to get to the doctor and find out what in the world's going on. So I called home, left a message. Hey, we're only 7 minutes from town. Or from the farm. Can you come from the farm, bring the keys into town, so by the time I come out of the doctor's office, I've got the keys to take Shalom home.
A reasonable request.
I thought.
Yeah.
I waited at the doctor's office forever, over an hour before I saw the doctor. Still hadn't seen the boys in the parking lot with the keys. Had the appointment with the doctor. He gave us a prescription for Shalom. I came out. It's the end of the day at the clinic, so they were locking up. I come out into the parking lot. No boys had showed up with the keys. So in that moment, I'm very real and honest. I talk about in the book how frustrated I was, thinking, what kind of a mother have I been that the boys don't understand? I am desperate for the keys. They know I've come to the doctor's office with a sick child.
All you do for them, can they not do this one thing?
Please. And I realized, do they even have phone booths in town anymore that I can get to a phone booth to call home and say, okay, guys, what in the world? Where are you? And I had to preach gospel back to myself. What grateful thing. What can I give thanks for in this particular moment? Because I was frustrated beyond measure.
Yeah.
Called home. The boys apologized. Very, very sorry. We'll get the keys right now and we'll come in.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right? So Joshua came in, gave me the keys, said he was sorry. And in that moment, I mean, goodness sakes, you think it's keys to the van, all right. Just take the keys, say thank you, and go home. But I was having this moment of, have I failed as a mother in some way? Like, why in the world could you not see the need that I was in and show up? And he was feeling sorry. So we have this moment of understanding, what does love look like in everyday messy kind of situations where have I messed up? Has he messed up? It's just the stuff of relationship that we have with people. And I think breaking down, what does it look like to love someone? How do you love someone passionately with your one broken heart? And looking at that word passion literally means the word passion was actually coined by theologians. They're looking at what is Christ doing on the cross. It's the passion of the Christ. That's what passion is. Love is to suffer. And I think understanding that.
Wow.
Now, you didn't have presence of mind to tell your son this, right?
No,
As he
I'm
gets
having
you-
all of these thoughts. I'm trying constantly to figure out, what does love look like in the midst of really messy relationships? Have I failed you, son, or have you failed me? How do two hearts connect when I feel broken and I think you're broken because I called for like an hour and a half ago for keys? What does this reveal about our relationship, that I failed you or have you failed me? What does this really look like? I mean, on the surface, it looks like keys for a locked fan. But on a deeper level,
Yeah.
is this saying something about our relationship?
We all have that, don't we?
Do you love me enough to show up when I need you to show up?
Yeah, I
Or
was
have
just-
I failed to love you so that you don't love me back? So this is sort of the subtext that's happening to a really simple mess up in the middle of a
where
normal
we live.
afternoon, right? So I'm trying to process, what does love look like? And really, so I'm coming back to, love is who you are willing to suffer for. You love as well as you're willing to be
Now,
inconvenienced.
how do you get that?
How do I get that? We go back to, what does the word passion really mean? What is the meaning of passion? It means suffer. It means compassion means co-suffer. Come alongside someone and suffer with them. So in that moment with Joshua is, how do I go ahead and humble myself and choose to suffer through the moment with
Shame him. Just absolutely shame him.
Is that gonna trust me, in my skin, I wanted to. Where in the
Yeah.
world have you been? Do you not love me enough to show up? Do you not love me enough to be stego? Do you not love me enough to show up and be a roof for me and protect me in a crummy situation that I've gotten myself into? But in the what real love is, will I enter into the moment and suffer? Well, it means will I be humble enough to say to Joshua, sorry for all the ways that I failed you.
Oof.
Which goes ahead and de-escalates a situation where I could have just lost it. I wanted to. But in that moment, realizing, I failed you in lots of ways, Josh. I haven't showed up when you needed me in many times. And for Joshua then to go ahead, that de-escalates. And we can go ahead and break our pride and our self-entitlement and go ahead and break ourselves into humility and say,
No, and then that, did you have the presence of mind to do that then? Or have you
yes,
thought about
no, in that
How
moment.
did
You
he
did.
respond?
How did he respond?
Yeah.
That de-escalates. And then Joshua says, sorry, Mama.
You actually did apologize.
I did in that moment because I'm trying to figure out, why did the kid not show up with the keys when I needed? Have I failed as a parent somehow? And realizing I have failed as a parent. In lots of ways I failed. In lots of ways I haven't shown up. So in that moment to go ahead and say, I'm sorry for all the ways I failed you, Josh. As opposed to saying, you have failed me.
Yeah.
I know all the
it's
ways I failed myself.
Absolutely the opposite. You know, in those moments, you had a right to go, where are the keys? Don't you love your sister? Can't you come back and take...
Trust me. But I was waiting. I mean, I had time. I had time because I'm waiting for the keys to
You
show
did
up,
have
right?
time. That's
I
right.
did have time. So I had time I'm waiting for the keys to show up to really process, how am I going to handle this? Because by the time the kid shows up, I want to throttle him. But to process and say, wait a second, have you not failed him? How many times have you failed Josh and not been who Josh needed you to be? You haven't been stego for Josh. You haven't been a safe place for Josh. So for him to show up and for me to look him in the eye and say, I'm sorry for all the times I failed you.
So as you then lead with your own apology
My own brokenness.
and brokenness, it somehow engages him to be able to embrace his.
And I think the shortest distance between two hearts is to share your broken heart, to humble yourself, to break the pride, the self-entitlement, the self-righteousness.
Say that again, the shortest.
The shortest distance between two hearts is to share your broken heart, to share your brokenness, and it will go ahead and bring the two of you closer. So in a situation where you feel right, in all kinds of relationship situations, we say, I feel right in this situation. I am right. Wait a second. Is there some way you can humble yourself? Because the broken way really is coming back to three things all the time: humility, vulnerability, and generosity. I think that embodies what Christ has done for us. So can I go ahead and humble myself in some way and share my own brokenness? How have I failed this person? How have I done what I want to say you've done to me? Can I go ahead and humble myself and live into the broken way? Humble myself and say, I'm sorry for the ways I failed you. And that will go ahead and de-escalate the situation for that person to go ahead and say, maybe I failed here too. And it goes ahead and brings you into, again, communion again. It draws the two hearts closer together. If we can say, I'm willing to suffer for you. I'm willing to live passionately for you. I'm willing to say, you are somebody I love enough. Love is simply as, who am I willing to suffer for? I love you enough that I'm willing to suffer for you. I love you enough to say, I'm going to break my own pride. Say, I'm sorry for the ways I failed you. And in that moment, Joshua said, sorry for the ways I didn't show up, Mama.
So, and this is rooted as you tying it to the passion
Of the Christ. How do you live cruciform? How do you suffer for somebody else and not go ahead and say, you want to say, this is about me. You want to say, you failed me. But that's not what Jesus did for us. He went ahead and lived like that shape of the cross again. He suffered for us. And that goes ahead and draws us into what? Relationship. If we're willing to go ahead and suffer for somebody. I think lots of times we think about, I love somebody as well as they love me, as opposed to love is just choosing who am I willing to suffer for.
Is this what Jesus is saying in Mark 8, where he talks about if you're going to come after me, you need to deny yourself and take up
A cross.
your cross,
Your cross.
not Jesus' cross,
Take up his cross and follow me.
our own cross. Is that the passion you're talking
Well,
about?
and sometimes that is. It's entering into the sufferings of Christ. It's entering into a painful situation, saying, how do I go ahead and live like Jesus in this situation?
For the sake of someone else.
For the sake of somebody else. And it's going to go ahead and draw you closer into a deeper relationship that's real and authentic, that looks like Christ would look in that particular situation. So I think you're constantly going ahead and saying, okay, if I want to live passionately into the world, who am I willing to suffer for? We use that word passion all the time. What are you passionate about? Really, think about that every time you use that word. What am I willing to suffer for?
Wow.
Which is a totally different way of looking at, it's what the word literally means. What are you passionate about? What are you willing to suffer for? If I really am passionate about my family, how am I willing to suffer for my family? And that might look like humility and saying, I'm going to go ahead and go first and say, I failed you, which goes ahead and allows them to say, maybe I failed you too.
Okay, now in my head, I'm hearing somebody say, yeah, but wouldn't this have been a teachable moment where you could have talked to him about responsibility and some of those things?
Completely. After that exchange happens. And we did have that conversation. After that exchange happens. But I think if I come from a self-righteous place, he goes ahead and he gets defensive and the whole situation escalates. But if I can come in and humbly say, I'm sorry for the ways I failed you, and he can say, I'm sorry for failing you, Mama, then we can move that conversation to, how could we have been more responsible? How could you have been more responsive
That's
to
so
me and my
helpful.
need?
And that sentence that you said again, I want you to repeat it one more time. The shortest distance.
The shortest distance between two hearts is to share your brokenness. If I can go ahead in the midst of a situation where it could very easily escalate, if I can go ahead and share my brokenness, the other person feels safe enough again, stego, feels safe enough again to go ahead and share their brokenness, de-escalate the situation, and then you can take it in a different direction to go ahead and talk about the logistics of the situation.